Okay, welcome back. Now we are gonna stop the session now, and let's see at 6 p.m. Central European Time, 4 p.m. UTC. So see you later then. So welcome back to the Climate Social Forum. We're running on the last session of today of the track of prosperity. We addressed how we have to change our behavior to build a new prosperities. And on that, surely new models and new ways also to think on social economy and reuse of resources are a way to foster a new prosperity. So I will let the floor to the moderator of this session, Lesego Tinane. So Lesego, very glad to have you here. I'll leave you the floor to moderate and to introduce the first speaker of this session.
Yes, thank you so much, Domenico. The speaker that we have next, which is precisely for this track for good practices, for good social practices, is Nathania Botha. Nathania is the partnerships and development coordinator for the Indalo Inclusive in South Africa. And Nathania is a passionate and environmental and social change activist. She is dedicated to empowering and uplifting people in rural and township areas, as well as protecting and advocating for natural spaces. Her work at Indalo Inclusive South Africa focuses on advocating for green, inclusive, and responsible entrepreneurship in South Africa through her determination and her desire to live a purpose-led life. She has earned multiple qualifications and accolades for the work that she's done. She has recently been honored as one of the Mail and Guardian 200 Young South Africans for 2021 in the environmental category. She hopes to inspire the youth to be steadfast in their pursuit of their goals and to never give up. And she believes that the solution to our country's problems lie in empowering young people. So with these words, I'd like to give it to Nathania for her presentation. Hi, Nathania.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lesego. Very nice introduction there.
It's a nice portfolio that you have.
It's not everything because I don't want to bombard people with too much stuff. People would think, how this person, she really does not have a life, but I'm enjoying life. I'm living it to the fullest. I'm just going to project my screen.
Perfect.
I hope everyone can see it.
Yes, definitely we can see it.
Excellent. So good evening, everyone. As you've heard, my name is Nathania Botha, and I am the Content Development and Partnerships Coordinator for Indalo Inclusive South Africa NPC. So our mandate as Indalo is we are a non-for-profit company, and we were established about 4 years ago. And we are dedicated to promoting enterprises with a positive environmental, social, and economic impact at their core. So our primary service offerings is enterprise capacity building, training of entrepreneurs, of BDS providers, of organizations, etc., on how to integrate green and social dimensions into their business operations. Our motto is also turning eco-inclusive enterprise ideas into positive economic impact. So just a quick overview. Our mission is to initiate and support environmentally friendly and social entrepreneurship innovations foster partnerships, build a strong and robust institution with good governance, and facilitating policy implementation and the co-creation of new policies, as well as the adaptation of new policies. And our vision is to create an entrepreneurial ecosystem that contributes to the thriving, inclusive and green economy of South Africa. So that's more or less Indalo in a nutshell. I have explained to you that our core mandate is to work with social enterprises that are really incorporating social, economic and environmental impacts into their business operations. And we also like to refer to it as an Indalopreneur. So I also just want to give you a quick overview of our programs within our portfolio. It's quite robust, if I can put it like that. So Indalo is anchored by a program funded by the government of Flanders. The program is called Reaping the Potential of Entrepreneurship for Climate Smart, Inclusive and Green Economy in South Africa. And out of this program, the CSF2021 program was born, which is funded by Nedbank. It's a 3-year program where it stands for the South African Green and Inclusive Enterprise Awards and Support Program. And here we focus on entrepreneurs within rural communities and township areas with innovation within the sectors of water, energy, waste and agriculture. And we support them through various life cycles of their enterprise with grant funding and capacity building. Most of our programs are structured like that. As you can see, there's a very interesting program called LACOMSA, funded by the UNDP and the South African National Parks. The program stands for Land Claimant Communities of Protected Areas in South Africa. So we've worked with quite a large number of enterprises situated in the western boundary of the Kruger National Park and assisting them to grow their enterprises and to become part of the value chain of the lodges and the businesses inside the Kruger. I also just want to highlight another program. It's called JTEP, but I'll speak to this one a bit later. We also have the CR program, which is the South African Women Enterprise Climate Change Awards, which is funded also by the government of Flanders and the United Nations Environment Program. It was also one of the very first awards that recognized women in climate change. In terms of our policy and dialogue, we have a program called IKS for Indigenous Knowledge Systems, and this is funded by the GIZ. We had the opportunity to travel to Mpumalanga and Limpopo to engage with traditional leaders, traditional healers, and community leaders on the on Indigenous knowledge and the impacts of climate change. And through this program, I have really witnessed devastating effects of climate change within local communities. So a very, very interesting program. We've also hosted a conference for WWF Qatar on community liaison officers and the mandate as part of community-led conservation initiatives. So this is just in a nutshell. I am not going into detail about everything. I just wanted to give you an overview. So once again, Exige, which is funded by the government of Flanders, I just want to give you a quick overview of the numbers of this program that it's reached so far. So far, since inception date, we have capacitated 306 enterprises across the various landscapes of South Africa. Once again, focusing on climate adaptation innovations within rural communities. We have distributed 980,000 Rand worth of grant funding to early stage entrepreneurs and enterprises. And before the sunset on the year 2021, we will still distribute additional 600,000 Rand. So it's an extremely high impactful program impacting communities across South Africa, especially when we talk about climate adaptation. So the IJTech program, it's called the Indalo Just Transition Enterprise Support Program. And this is financially supported by the European Union Partnership Instrument and the German Federal Ministry of Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety in the context of the International Climate Initiative. So this program is really one of the first of its kind in South Africa, where we had the opportunity to go and identify 10 entrepreneurs within the landscape and the mining communities of Limpopo and Mpumalanga. You will see we have plenty projects in Limpopo and Mpumalanga, because these two provinces should not be left out when it comes to air pollution, environmental degradation, and so forth. So the program supported 10 enterprises, and it focused in the result areas of renewable energy, transportation, industrial technologies, agriculture, tourism, and water. So I just want to give you a quick overview of why is it that we do what we do. Because we have really seen the impact of our work, not only on individuals, but also on community level. And that also filters up to national levels. So we truly believe that the work that we do is purposeful, and it's really empowering people to become not only climate smart enterprises, but employers, innovators, and so forth. So the objectives of my presentation for tonight is really, I would like to highlight the plight of the base of the pyramid people as they deal with the impacts of poverty, unemployment, and climate change. I facilitated a workshop today on the SDGs, and I asked the question, who has ever been hungry in the room? Who has had extreme hunger pains? Because for me, that is the worst feeling in the world, is to be hungry. Yet there is so many, the stats on people dying of hunger on our African continent is shocking. So I think that just saying poverty and just saying a word hunger, ending hunger, it's not just a word. It is absolutely, it's there. People are affected by it, and people are really losing their lives due to hunger. So I also want to raise a clear call for action to build robust societies through the development of entrepreneurship. So the base of the pyramid dilemma and the opportunities, we've seen it, we've witnessed it, the civil unrest that happened in KZN. We've seen workers migrating, we've seen droughts, loads of droughts all over the country. I visited Namaqualand in June to conclude a documentary on ecosystem-based adaptation for the UNEP on behalf of Indalo. And there we've realized that this province is already facing climate increases in temperatures. It's scientifically proven. So it's not just something that it's not a pie in the sky, it's really there. And then we've also seen animals left with no graceland, and obviously last but not least, and we should not leave this out of the conversation, is women is absolutely the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, because they are the ones that go and look for water. They are the ones that are building their communities. So I just wanted to highlight this. So in terms of the South Africa's socioeconomic and environmental challenges that we faced with, we all know the stats that South Africa has one of the highest unemployment rates on a global list of 82 countries. One stat that really I go to bed and I reflect on it every single night, and it does not make sense to me. 11 million South Africans lives on less than 28 Rand a day. I ask myself the question, how do you live on 28 Rand a day? And then it also takes me to the fact that we have a dual economy, that there is a small side of the country that is highly skilled, highly productive, and then on the other side of the flip coin is a large set of citizens that are unemployed, unskilled, and it's just low production. So it's in this sense that we can relate to the fact that South Africa is unequal, extremely unequal. But most of all, South Africans has already started to feel the effects of climate change through drought and flooding, and this has already affected their livelihoods. President Cyril Ramaphosa also highlighted on the 11th of October that the climate crisis presents serious health, environmental, and economic risks for South Africa. This is not just any sentence. This is a sentence that must be on top of all the agendas, in all the conversations of all the forums, because we are extremely vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, our country. So the climate change impacts, we get it like sort of like a double whammy, if I can put it like that, from the impacts, because we're dealing with both the results of our past actions, and we need to deal with the impacts of now transitioning to new technologies. And on both ends, people are going to lose their jobs. People are going to have to transition. So it's either way you look at it, it's a double whammy. So the concepts that we are focused with, that we are focusing on currently, is climate adaptation and just transition. So at the heart of both these concepts is that we are dealing with the term called inclusion or inclusivity. Perhaps the term leaving no one behind fits into this. But then I also think about, what do we mean by we don't want to leave anyone behind? Is it a person situated in the middle of a rural village who does not have access to basic sanitation and water? Or is it someone who had the opportunity, that went to university, but they don't have the opportunity to find a job, to get employment? So it's very vague when we want to say we don't want to leave anyone behind. So how should we respond to create social, environmental, and economic change? Once again, this is not just a term that is going to sound nice or catchy, but this is really our opportunity to build back better, greener. We need to build robust green enterprises to significantly increase the resilience of our society while creating jobs and offering a pathway towards inclusive green local economies. And this is really the recipe for success. So what is it that we want? Because we are currently standing at a pivotal point in human history, one that will most likely determine humanity's future on this planet. Billions of people throughout the world are expecting global leaders to show the bold, courageous leadership necessary to avoid the the ever-worsening impacts of climate change. COP26 is their opportunity to show it. I think the time has come to compromise. Leaders must engage in frank discussions, driven not by legitimate desire for the protection of national interests, but also by the equally demanding goal of contributing to the welfare of humanity. We know that the issues are technical, complex, and difficult to solve, but they cannot and should not be allowed to become obstacles, much less excuses, to prevent us from achieving our overall goals already agreed upon in the Paris Agreement. So I just want to do a few reflections on climate change points that I would like to reflect on. So in terms of mitigation, we need clear plans and indices that will reduce emissions according to science and accompanied by long-term strategies that will get the world on a pathway to achieving climate neutral by 2050. Is this even possible? Are we talking a magical language when we say climate neutral by 2050? How will we get there? We need to think about the infrastructure. We need to think about the innovation that needs to go into this. I have, in my studies, I'm currently studying my master's through the University of Salford in Manchester, and I had to do a comparison between London and Sydney to launch an electric vehicle for a car sharing concept. And just going through all the world indexes to get to this comparison, who is going to win, I saw that, wow, we speak about all of these beautiful, nice things to become climate neutral, etc. But we still have such a long way to go if we do not start act today. So in terms of adaptation, I would just like to highlight that this is no longer a component no longer a forgotten component of climate action. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has highlighted that 50% of total share of climate finance needs to be allocated towards adaptation and resilience, as well as the Paris Agreement established a goal on adaptation to strengthen resilience and reduce the vulnerabilities to climate change, because that's what we're currently dealing with. We're dealing with adaptation. How do we adapt? That's the question. A few last reflections is on finance. Finance is extremely critical if we truly want to move towards a cleaner, greener, and sustainable future. If we are to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement and ultimately protect human health, human life on this planet, we need to even more widely spread the financial support from developing nations to address climate change. I believe that this is an act of self-interest for everyone. We also call upon the private sector to invest and to align their portfolios with the Paris Agreement, Agenda 2030, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Reason for that is because we cannot be in a neutral position when it comes to climate action. No one can stand on the sidelines or remain impassive before this issue, deciding to postpone time and time again. This does not come without its consequences. We need full implementation of the Paris Agreement and adoption, because the Paris Agreement was not the end. It's only the beginning. I believe that after 2030, the world leaders are going to meet again, and they're going to come up with better goals and better things to achieve. But we need to mobilize our citizens, our private sectors, our governments, in order to reach these robust and resilient goals that has been set for 2030. So as a last reflection, as I end, climate change does not see the boundaries or borders or ideas or whatever we want to call it. Climate change is here. Climate change is affecting millions of people around the world. It's affecting millions of people in our country, in our continent. And if we do not take action in our corners, small actions that we can take, then we will not reach our goal for the 1.5 degrees Celsius. And then it's beyond our control. So I would just like to end by saying that please, regardless of what action it is, no matter how small it is, you should not underestimate the impact that it will make. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. Thank you.
Oh my word, Nathania, that was great. Thank you so much. I think the presentation even answered all the questions that I had prepared for you. However, I think it's great work that you do. I especially like the term that you use, Indalopreneurs. I think I like that concept and what it's based on. For everyone, I think they understand exactly why is it that I had chosen for Nathania and in particular in Indalo Inclusive to be a part of the good practices for this track of the Climate Social Forum. Thank you so much again, Nathania.
Thank you.
I am not sure if Domenico is ready with our next presentation, or do you have any questions?
Yeah. I have a lot of questions actually, so maybe we can like wait a little bit for the next presentation. There will be a video. First of all, thank you very much, Nathania. And now also myself, I very understand why Lesego has invited you to this track, because it was a wonderful presentation, really, from the deep of the heart. And thank you also for one thing, and sorry if I add one personal note, thank you for addressing and advocate the Paris Agreement as you did, because in the climate movement we forget that this is something that it's just start, and we have to like foster on and continue in promoting and so on. So thank you very much also for this small personal thing. I was like in Paris when it was signed, and it was my first conference of party that I attended, and I was a little bit also younger, and I remember the feeling and the hopes that were inside that agreement. So thank you very much for that, and thank you all.
Sorry, Domenico, I was saying, don't you want to go through your questions first before your next presentation? Are you still okay with that?
No, I think surely there could be some question from the floor, but I have some question also. So I don't know. So my question is about your experience in implementing entrepreneurship in your contest. I will try to contextualize a bit my question, because I was coming from the international cooperation background. It was my first like activity also as a volunteer, and once I was like very enlightened by a speech from a guy that was working in international cooperation since a long time. And he was admitting that international cooperation during the 80s and the 90s was faulting because was not addressing properly entrepreneurship. There were no program on entrepreneurship. And I think that foster entrepreneurship is a really is really like implementing cooperation in a real way. But sometimes I think that could be also challenges in implementing I don't know, startups, entrepreneurship programs, and so on. So, which is your experience also on this, and how do you think can be like good practices for implement entrepreneurship in contests?
Thank you for the question. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. If I'm not, please tell me how to pronounce it. Domenico, right?
Exactly.
Okay, wonderful. So, Domenico, I'm going to give you an example overview, not just from the perspective of Indalo, because I've got my fingers in other forums as well, such as the Young African Leadership Initiative for the Southern Africa region. And I sit many nights and advise young entrepreneurs on their business plans. And as an entrepreneur, one should never forget that when you start a business, it is not a given or a guaranteed that your business is going to succeed. Your business, you will need to start building the business. Learn all the business acumen from a business planning and a business operations perspective. And then once you've got all this knowledge, you are still not guaranteed that your business is going to succeed. So the scary stat is that only 10 out of 100 enterprises survive within their first 5 years. So one need to ask oneself, okay, you train and you provide funding and so forth to enterprises. But once again, it's not a guarantee that the enterprise is going to survive. It all depends on the current market demand, who is the customers, is the community supporting it, is it genuinely a need for society? And at Indalo, we promote behavioral change for our entrepreneurs. So their business models needs to really focus on how can society become aware, A, of your product, and B, how will their behavior change through using your service or your product. So in terms of a best practice that I can share tonight is that entrepreneurs must not become complacent and say, well, I've started this business and that's good enough for me, because that is not good enough. It takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication, hours, blood, sweat, tears, across the spectrum, because you're going to have to learn so much about operating a business, from doing the marketing, the financials. You are a one-man show when you start. You only have this idea. But going through that journey of developing the idea and getting the person to start, and once you have seen the person is employing their first employee, that's when you get that warm feeling in your heart to know that, wow, what you have done, the journey that you have walked with this person was not for nothing, because there's impact. That person is employing someone, And that someone maybe has 4 people that he needs to take care of, or 5. So you're not only impacting one person's life, but you are impacting 5 or 6 people's lives with only one employment. If you've noticed the stats for South Africa, the unemployment, the high poverty rate, South Africa will only be able to move forward with local entrepreneurship development. And I'm not talking about development of shishinyamas. This is genuine development in societal ills and society challenges that we are faced with. Water, sanitation, agriculture, we're talking about food security, local food security, getting your community to embrace local food gardens, for instance, not relying to go to a retailer, but supporting your local people at home. And for me, the key message for tonight is that charity starts at home. In Africa, we have this thing. I travel a lot into the communities, so I know what's going on there. If you need sugar, you just take a cup and you send the little one, and he goes off to the neighbor and he asks for a cup of sugar. The neighbor won't ask questions. She will give a cup of sugar. And that's the spirit that is within the communities, and we must bring that spirit home for people to help each other and support each other with business development and support their enterprises. So yeah, I hope I've answered your question and that I've not spoken in circles, but yeah, that would be my answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nathania. I think that intel right there also rounds up and gives even further intel on exactly the principles that Indalo represents, basically. And I will also include you personally, because in order for someone to work with such an organization, they would firstly have to be passionate on their own individually. I don't know if we have another question from the floor. I guess we do not, so I'm going to close for Nathania, just to check again, any questions on the floor? Okay, no. Again, Nathania, thank you so much. Thank you very much for the information overload that you just gave everybody. I am certain that we are all inspired by what we heard today, and I personally will still be looking at all the groundwork that you personally do. Thank you so much.
Sure. Like story. So I don't know.
Thank you so much for that, Domenico.
Thanks to you for the amazing session. Also, Nathania was great. And I don't know if there are like some last comments from Zakir, from you, if you want to also make some final remarks.
Yes, I would first like to say that we couldn't have left any part of the segment that everybody just saw. We couldn't have just left it halfway or anything, because we believe that every part of it was important to be seen in terms of good practices. So everybody should, have a chance to see all of that. But we have dropped the link for the video itself in the chat box, so everybody who wants to see it can catch it there. But in the meantime, thank you so much. I hope everybody has a great understanding of, I think the segment was Africa orientated. I don't know if you can correct me if I'm wrong, Domenico, but yes, it was great to hear of the good practices that are happening, especially within the continent of Africa, what everybody is doing. Thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to have everybody speak on what they are doing. And I would once again like to thank Nathania for her presentation today. It was phenomenal. Thank you so much, Domenico. I think that's it for us today for the track, and especially for the topic on good practices.
Thank you to you, Lisego, for the wonderful moderation, and thank you again. I want to add also my thanks to Nathania because it was a wonderful presentation. So let's give the appointment for tomorrow. Tomorrow there will be the track on peace. Don't miss because it will be very, very interesting. And but we will keep updated by email and so on. So thank you and have a nice day, evening, day, whatever it is. Bye.
Thank you. Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.